Tennessee Titans finished the 2021 NFL season with a 12-5 record. They won the AFC South division, and they had the number one overall seed in the AFC conference for the playoffs. However, Tennessee was knocked out in the divisional round by the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think it's fair to consider this past season for the Tennessee Titans to be a disappointment. Now, some of you guys are probably going to say, whoa, JT Sports. The Titans went 12-5, had the number one overall seed in the AFC, and won their division. So how is this past season a disappointment? Well, this past season is a disappointment for the Titans when you think about the expectations that were in place before the season started. Because before the regular season kicked off, Tennessee Titans fans felt like they were the most slept on team in the NFL because nobody was really giving them a legitimate shot to win the Super Bowl. Everybody picked Buffalo, Kansas City, even Cleveland to have better odds at winning the Super Bowl or at least winning the AFC than Tennessee. And I'm not going by the Vegas odds. I'm going by what the popular takes were by many people in the NFL world. And Titans fans got on me because I made a segment on one of my older episodes of the JT Sports Podcast, basically coming out and saying that I didn't believe that the Titans were a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and I didn't think that they were going to make it to the Super Bowl. And of course, throughout the season, Titans fans kept messaging me on Twitter and Instagram saying, well, JT, I guess you were wrong about Tennessee because look at us right now. We're about to have the 1 seed. And I kept telling Tennessee fans, listen, I'm not judging Tennessee season based off what you do in the regular season. You are expected to win the AFC South. You are expected to be in the playoffs. Okay, like Tennessee shouldn't really get commended that much for making it into the postseason and winning their division because those are things that are expected out of Tennessee. It's expected that Tennessee should be winning the AFC South, considering the fact that 2 out of 4 teams in that division are the worst teams in the league, and the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the only real competition that you had in that division this year was the Indianapolis Colts. So for Tennessee, you were supposed to win the division and you were supposed to get to the postseason. However, the expectation was to at least make it to the AFC Conference Championship, especially when there were many people out there believing that this team, that this was the year. You had Julio Jones, you had A.J. Brown. I understand you had injuries. You had injuries to Derrick Henry. You had injuries to your offensive line. You had COVID outbreaks and whatnot. But when you got to the playoffs and you got that number one overall seed and you had that first round bye, you should have been healthy enough to defeat Cincinnati and to at least make it to the conference championship game. Like, there really was no excuses for Tennessee this season. They had everything lined up in their favor. This is probably the best chance that Tennessee had at making the Super Bowl than they probably will in the next 5 years, because now things are about to get incredibly tough because Kansas City is going to continue to be around. You got Buffalo. You still have New England, who still is a threat, who could be a dark horse Super Bowl contender next year, depending on what they do and how much Mac Jones improves. You got the Chargers. You have the Denver Broncos, if they can get their act together and finally find a quarterback. Like, the AFC is getting really, really competitive. And when you look at Tennessee right now, they're not taking advantage of the opportunity. Like, you're playing in one of the weakest divisions in the NFL. You have to be able to take advantage of that. You have to be able to capitalize off that. And Tennessee hasn't really done a great job of that. And you're wondering, when is Tennessee ever going to get over the hump? And I want you Titans fans to be prepared for the next couple of months. When people talk about Tennessee and where they lie in the Super Bowl hierarchy, be prepared for some people to write off Tennessee, because some people may have the mindset that if Tennessee can't win now, given the circumstances that they had this season with the number 1 overall seed and still getting bounced out in the divisional round, some people may have the mindset that if Tennessee couldn't win this year, they may never ever win, which I'm not going to say I agree with that mindset, but I'm not going to fault anybody for having that mindset. The good thing is, when you look at the state of the franchise for the Tennessee Titans, you're still in that Super Bowl conversation. And I'm not going to write off Tennessee and say that they never will win the Super Bowl or they never will even have an appearance in the Super Bowl, because that's naive to say, because any team has a shot. Like we just saw Cincinnati come out of nowhere and knock down that Super Bowl narrative that you got to be in the Super Bowl window, because the Super Bowl window can change at any time, any season, and there's always some teams that come out of nowhere and surprise us like the Cincinnati Bengals have. However, you look at Tennessee, you're still going to be around in that conversation. However, what does Tennessee have to do to get over the hump? Because now you're here, like you're right there. All you need is just 1 or 2 more pieces to get you over that hump. So I wouldn't give up on Tennessee, because you can always win a Super Bowl at any time. There's no such thing as a Super Bowl window. There are teams that we feel have great chances year in and year out to compete for a Super Bowl and have better chances than others to win the Super Bowl. But when you look at the Tennessee Titans, like they definitely are right there. The question is, what do they have to do to finally get over the hump? What is it going to take for head coach Mike Vrabel to finally find a way to get this team into the Super Bowl? Now, right now, their cap situation isn't the greatest. They're currently under the cap by $6 million and some change. You also have to retain inside linebacker Rashaan Evans and edge rusher Harold Landry. Both those guys are going to hit the free agency market if they don't get franchise tag, or Tennessee can't come to a new deal with those guys. You also probably need some more talent in the wide receiver room. You did have some issues where AJ Brown was out and you had no Julio, and you was kind of lacking that depth there. So you should improve the wide receiver room. There's a lot of great wide receivers in the draft. You can get a really high caliber wide receiver in the 3rd or 4th round. You got to improve the right tackle spot. Inside linebacker is going to be a concern if you can't keep Rashaan Evans. And edge rusher, you're going to have to address that if you can't find a way to keep Harold Landry. And Harold Landry, when you look at the season that he's coming off, he's probably going to demand a lot of money. So if Tennessee's trying to keep him, I expect him to either be put on a franchise tag, or if he's allowed to hit the open market, I don't think that it's a high possibility that Tennessee is going to retain him, because Harold Landry is starting to bubble. And this year, you look at how big of a season he had, I expect him to be one of the highest paid pass rushers in the NFL in free agency. So you guys let me know your state of the franchise for the Tennessee Titans down in the comment section down below. And it's really interesting when you look at Tennessee, because like I like Tennessee a lot. I'm not giving up on them. Just right now, you're wondering, like, when are they finally going to get it? How many teams are going to surpass Tennessee? Because Cincinnati has already surpassed Tennessee. They've already been in the Super Bowl, and this is their first time being in the playoffs in a while. And Tennessee's been to the playoffs for over the last couple of years, and they haven't really done much. So you're wondering, when is Tennessee finally going to be able to get into the big game? So you guys let me know your state of the franchise for the Tennessee Titans. Also, make sure that you guys check out the JT Sports Podcast. Every video that's uploaded on the channel is available in audio format on every single podcasting platform.